So what do I call you? 2and900 isn't really a conversation type name.
Yeah, it's not. You can call me Bart or Bartholomew. That's my actual name.
Okay.
Bartholomew! I need you to go out and buy eggs for Bart!
Go buy eggs for Bart.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've never, ever heard a Simpsons reference to your name.
Yeah, it was a big part of my childhood, I guess I could say.
Far out, man. I can't do a good Bart voice.
Neither can I.
Actually, you do a perfect Bart impression. Just not the one people were expecting. So, Bartholomew. I'm Casey, by the way. Nice to meet you. You said that we're in the same time zone, so I live in Oregon. What state do you live in?
I also live in Oregon.
Oh, cool. Anywhere near the coast?
No, I live in Eugene.
Ah, okay. Well, that's not too far away. Eugene's a nice town.
I go to the coast. I go to the coast all the time.
Well, if you're ever in Florence, you can come to my church and meet me. In fact, if you're in the area, you can come to my house and I'll make food for you. But, I was going to say things. You can probably hear a kid's show in the background. That's going to be part of my life for a long time. That's Tank Toddler. She's just absorbed in her show right now. That little kid is growing so fast.
I was going to say, I have a younger brother who's, I forgot how old he is. I think he's like 11. I don't know, but he was a baby when I was like 14 or something. So I have a really hard time realizing how fast he has grown. And I still view him as like a little kid.
Isn't that crazy?
He's almost a teenager. Yeah.
Like, wait till you have your own kids. It's so weird. Like, I remember this one when she was inside mommy and beating her up all night. And mom used to go, ugh, 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 in her sleep, like as she's getting beat by this girl. And I put my hand on her tummy and it'd just be like, boom, 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 boom. All this kicking, right? And her little sister, who's actually still a baby now, is she never did that. So that's just her. She's really physical. So Bart, it's nice to meet you. You run the 2and900 YouTube channel, which, among other things, covers War Thunder Weekly News. You cover things that are coming to the game or that might be coming to the game, and you are a useful source for War Thunder Weekly News. Who would imagine? What else about your YouTube channel have I not mentioned?
I also like to stream on Saturdays, and I say, okay, well, what's funny is I say at the end of every video that I make random videos throughout the week. I stream on Saturdays and make War Thunder Weekly News videos on Sundays, but the videos, they always seem to come out on Mondays. This is like by accident every time.
Sure.
I start making them Sunday night. I should probably start earlier. Sometimes I make them start in Sunday afternoon, and I literally have to edit those videos till Monday morning. So a lot of work goes into those videos.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I find editing really fun though.
So you have the time and the privilege to edit your videos, both of which I sort of envy you. I've got 2 girls, so I have less time, but the fact that mommy's home right now to help take care of the girls before she goes back to work after having the baby, that really helps out. You mentioned, while we were talking, which may or may not make it into the final cut of the video, it probably will, that you have a little brother, and watching him grow up from a baby is just something that's blown your mind. And along that note, how long have you been with War Thunder? Have you been there from the beta, or? No.
A while ago, I remember War Thunder was doing a lot of promotion, and they struck some random YouTuber. I think it was Angry Joe, and he made like a video about it driving a tank around. And I was like, I think this is the first time I've heard of the game. And I was like, oh, that's pretty neat. But I wasn't very into free-to-play games at the time. And then I was actually on this the Angry Joe's forums with other random people. I remember seeing this one dude had a banner from one of the ads of War Thunder, and all slow motion with like the bullets flying the plane. I was like, man, that looks really awesome. And so I started looking at the game, and this was back in I think 2015. And so I just decided to go check the game out because I was also like really bored, and my computer was pretty awful, so I couldn't play many of the new modern games.
That's interesting. I had a similar experience for why I came to War Thunder, but actually, a friend of mine here on the Discord server is collecting stories of how people started playing War Thunder. So maybe you should send him a little clip about that. Anyway, I thought that'd be interesting. You mentioned you have a little brother. What else can we know about your family? Mom and dad, are they still together?
And unfortunately, no. But I have 2 older brothers, and one younger brother, and I still would live with my mom. But that's by design. I'm trying to work things out. Life's weird. But I have one older brother who's moved out a long while ago. My second older brother, we're only a few years apart, and then there's a major gap, and then there's my younger brother. Mm-hmm. It's kind of funny, but he's also kind of not YouTube, but he does Twitch, and he's getting pretty big there, and he's inspirational to me in many ways because he's starting to be like really successful with the whole internet personality thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's essentially my. Oh yeah, and I have 2 cats, and one of them is annoying, and the other one doesn't like people. That's my family.
One of the cats is annoying, and the other one doesn't like people. Sounds like they're not your favorite pets. Have you had any other pets in the past?
I had one. I had another cat who was very fat. Unfortunately, he passed away many years ago. And I believe I had 3 hermit crabs when I was a kid.
Oh, I thought you said, I believe I have 3 hermit crabs. And I was like,
oh, no.
You should make sure about that. Like, I had them, and then they just went missing one day when I was at school.
Well, actually, no, one of them did go missing for a while. Like, we had this bowl of sand. 2 of the hermit crabs had died. And the last one, it just took off, like got out of his shell and went on an adventure.
I gotta get the fuck out of here!
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I've living on the coast, I've gone crabbing a lot, and I don't actually like eating crab, but catching them is so cool because you get to like have them live in the boat, and they do crab stuff, and crab stuff is cool. Because mostly it's when they get stressed, they start beating the piss out of other crabs. They're just like, I'm not comfortable. I should murder everyone. Anyway, I kind of got a little bit distracted now. What was I going to ask you about? Thinking about crab battle just got me all excited.
Crab battle!
How old are you now, for reference? I don't know if I've asked you that.
I'm 25, pretty sure at least. Yeah.
Okay, so you've been through high school. Did you go on to further education, or where did you go after high school?
I did, and it wasn't working out for me. But it wasn't all in vain, because thanks to not paying for books and then telling the school I did, I was able to upgrade my computer.
Oh, man. Yeah, I remember. The cost of college books is so expensive. Keep going.
I know. Well, it was a community college, but the great thing is, I remember it was a history class, and the book was like I think it was over $100, maybe a few. I don't remember, but the teacher would give out page numbers for last year's book or whatever, which was only like $14 on Amazon.
And I got nothing out of it other than my karate black belt. but I went on to study that for intensive 7 years of study. So I figured that was worth it. But I used to borrow books from people, and like my roommate would had a lot of classes the same with me, so I would just borrow his book, and like you don't even need to use it that much. But
I know.
I guess the first few years of college for me were just like high school, so I just skipped class most of the time. I didn't have a reason to be there. So it sounds like you ended up dropping out of college, which is pretty common. And are you stuck with some student loan debt now?
Luckily, no. My mom was sure to make sure I didn't gather any student loan debt. Most of the stuff that I was going through was from I was getting grants and whatnot. And well, yeah, and then college just generally, I wasn't working out. I did not like it at all. It felt kind of like high school too. Most of the classes were boring. Oh yeah, there was this one class that was like, "Hey, do you want your occupation to be?" And this was one of the required classes on. I was trying to do a game development degree, and one of the classes was like, "Oh, you're sure you want to do that?" I was like, "Yes, of course I am. That's why I signed up for it." And the class, of course, costs money. I realized, the community college are just trying to like waste my time to get money out of me. So decided to start working for myself in many ways, which has been more successful than I originally thought. Kind of hard.
That sounds like being self-employed. It's like nobody makes you do anything, and there's twice as many things you need to do, but you get to reap the sweet, sweet rewards of success. And speaking of, your channel's been doing well, and it's nice to see multiple channels covering news, and you have been covering a lot of things. But, of course, this talk is more about who you are as a person, and we kind of skipped ahead, so maybe I could go back a bit and ask you what life was like growing up. You mentioned that your parents are split up, and mine are in that condition as well. They divorced instead of killing each other, so that was something that needed to happen. But tell me a little bit about you growing up.
Well, so my mom's from the East Coast. I was born in Arizona, but my two older brothers are from Oregon. So is my younger brother. So family's a bit spread out. I don't remember where my dad is actually. Or dad is from. Nor do I know where he is actually. So my mom, she's a fiber artist. She's been doing it since like she was my age, and because of that, before the internet was like a real legit thing, we would go around to multiple festivals on the East Coast selling her shirts. Mm-hmm. And so a good chunk of my childhood is either sitting in a car or being in some strange town in California or Washington. And while it might sound not very fun as a kid, it's actually extremely fun because you get to see like so many weird, strange places and a lot of bizarre people. But also, I think I lost track of things.
Sure. I think that's neat that you were able to see more of the world as a kid and a young man. You know, a lot of people don't get their traveling in when they're young, but that's another thing that I suppose we have in common. My mom loves to travel, even though she's not an artist. She definitely took us everywhere that she could on vacations and such, because she's got a passion for seeing the world. So with that, you did some traveling when you were young. You saw some different corners of the West Coast. Do you plan on traveling into the future?
Oh, definitely. I love going to like weird places. Of course, I need to secure my YouTube channel a bit more. But like, I want to go to like various museums around in general. Because museum history is another thing that really gets to me, or I really like, which is worth, and of course it is. But besides the traveling, I also for the first few years that I remember, I lived in a cabin in the woods that had no bathroom. There was an outhouse. And that was really fun. But I think it was fun because I was like young child. And then that was till about, I think I was like 4 or 5 or something. And then I moved to the city, and my mom enrolled me in I think it was like a Catholic school or something. I don't remember. It was some private school, which did not work at all. I don't really know why. Well, most religious people are pretty nice, but the people running this school, they weren't very nice to me, unfortunately. And
sounds like Catholic school.
That has unfortunately kind of left a scar on my life, as my education hasn't been very good. Common times there'll be typos in my titles. That's because I don't know, for some reason I can't bring myself to remember how to spell any words. That's also kind of why I stopped going to college, sort of. Which is something I kind of don't really like talking about too much because I don't want to make myself sound stupid. But
well, there's a difference between stupid and uneducated. There's a lot of people that haven't gotten a thorough education, or they had a tough time going through school, and they can do incredible things. I mean, look at you. You're an example. You have a successful YouTube channel, and you... I've noticed, actually, when watching your videos, that your vocabulary... This is just one of those things that I pay attention to because I'm a huge book nerd, and grammar and vocabulary and things like that are just things that I've geeked out about my whole life. I noticed that you sounded like someone, actually like Fly Daily. Fly, he seems like someone, and he talked about this a little bit, that just didn't have a good school experience. Like he wasn't in the same, like he was held back or something, but he mentioned that he had some struggles going through school, and it actually shows later on in his grammar and the way he uses words. A lot of words he use without really understanding what they mean, and that's just an example that I'm not saying that that's your case. I'm talking about Fly right now, but he's an example of somebody that can have not perfect grammar, but he gets the point across, and it's actually kind of funny when he messes up on something.
Well, I definitely tell you that the education system did not work for me at all. There was bumps every step of the way. Every school I went to. Well, a lot of it, I was put into the special education thing, or whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And most of it seemed more of that the teachers really did not respect the students at all. The special ed students. And that was the biggest thing. Is like a lot of the special education students, like they have like some sort of learning disability or something, like they're whatever. I forgot what the words were, but I wasn't like that, and I kept on because I just don't have the early education stuff figured out entirely. That was always my issue. So they would treat me as if I am just
mentally
stupid.
retarded.
Yeah, like that.
But
I'm not.
You know, Bart, I'm really glad you brought that up, because I volunteered for about a year at the elementary school that I went to, and I was volunteering in the class of who was my music teacher in high school, but at that time she was a 3rd grade teacher. And there are special ed kids that they learn slower because they have a disability. But a good half, if not more, of the kids in special ed are just people that didn't get into early education. And one of the things about early education is it's a lot more significant than later on. You know, you expect the difference between 4th and 5th grade is not all that much. But the difference between 1st and 3rd grade is massive. And for every one of you people out there, especially you kids who are still going through school, never look down on the special ed kids. Most of them are not stupid. Most of them are actually really cool people. And honestly, even the kids who do have a mental disability can be the best friends you could ever make. So don't look down on them. Be good to them. All right, Bart, you carry on.
Well, what was I getting at too? Yeah, school was awful for the most part. I remember, I put up with most of the disrespect that I would get from the special ed teachers because I was a kid. I liked people. I wanted people to like me. Up until high school.
Mm-hmm.
In high school, there's a lot of stuff going on in life, and I decided, I don't really care about being successful in school. So at one point, I completely stopped going to class. But before that, I could not put up with this one teacher's BS anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I would always, what's the word? Whenever he was like talking about anything, I'd always try to make up some sort of, pardon my language, but smart ass comment or whatever. every step. There was even one.
I think that's both of us, bud. You carry on.
There was one point where I had a friend who had her cell phone taken away, and so I decided to call up the cell phone. She said that it wasn't. It was so it looked like helium. Unfortunately, she was being an idiot, and the cell phone is only on vibrate. But I did a lot of that stuff, and then eventually stopped going to class. Actually, no. What really annoyed me the most about special education is I noticed that one of my friends, he was going to get a modified diploma where he just didn't have to do certain classes. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't going to get a modified diploma despite working much harder than him or whatever. So I would have to put in a whole lot more work for the same thing in the end. And I was like, what's the point of me even trying?
You felt like it wasn't fair?
No, it wasn't fair. But then I had this other friend of mine who happened to be going to some like alternative high school for just basically get a degree high school. That was, and I was like, oh man, that's neat. And I tried to apply to it, but they told me, oh, you got to be credit deficient. So I was like, well, all right, I just won't do my work.
You need to do worse to get in our school. Hint, hint. Like, wait, a reason to slack off? Well, if I must. I like that story. And
then for that high school is pretty neat because most of the students there were like they were like just trying to get a degree. They didn't want any of the high school BS. A lot of them were like in the, what did I say this? Like there was a lot of teen pregnancies there. It was kind of that kind of situation. A lot of talking about drugs. It was neat though. I really liked it because it started noon and it was only like 2 blocks away from my house.
Yeah, despite the talking about drugs and stuff. not that you like, oh wow, all this drugs talk is very interesting. Tell me more about your pregnancy.
But no, it was I was the top of the class, entire school there because I was like the only person who would do the work.
So that really helped you to get excited about school. Tell me more about that.
Unfortunately, it only lasts for like, since I was credit deficient, it only lasts 2 years, or a year and a half really. But then they had this program to try to get people into community college. They really forced on me because I said best in this school. And I was like, all right, but I really didn't want to go to college. That kind of made me not complete it. Because I really didn't want to, and they were trying to force it on me. But overall, it was a great situation.
That's such a cool story about how you felt like you were pushed away by basically just people not respecting you and not expecting much out of you, and then you found a place where the expectations were a little bit different, and it actually inspired you to to do your best and to do a lot more than you were doing before. You had to intentionally fail your way out of a system that didn't support you to get into one where you felt like a king. I love it.
I got into college about sometime halfway through there. I started playing War Thunder, and then college wasn't working out, so I decided screw that. And I had always wanted to do YouTube, but for most of my life, I didn't have a computer to like really do anything on.
Mm-hmm.
But then, as I said, college books, most of the time you don't use them, and they're really expensive, and I'm getting these grants. Why not just, not buy the books? So that's what I did one semester. I got enough money, upgraded my computer, and was able to play War Thunder. And what was funny at the beginning, I had decided, what I'm going to do is I'm going to record with my phone, my face. And that was probably a bad idea.
You don't sound all that confident.
But I noticed that one time when I was recording it, I don't know why, for the video footage it didn't work. It was all black. So it's like, I've been trying to record some gameplay footage, so I'll just do that for once. Mm-hmm. That'll be the thing. And then I did that, and that video, I believe, I don't remember how much more views it got, but it was a lot more views. And I was like, well, wow, I should be doing this, not recording my face. Actually, one of the early videos, you can see I had just gotten back from running, so I'm all like sweaty, and I don't know why I decided to record my face at the beginning. I should have started with gameplay, but that was only like a few videos.
So for the stranger fans of your channel, are those videos still available?
Yeah.
And suddenly there's more views. So with that one, there is something that I'd like to ask you. Do you go back and rewatch your old videos?
Actually, quite often, because a lot of times I'm referencing things that happened in the past, so I have to go back, and sometimes, like some of the leak list videos that I do, I get a little carried away with those. I really like leak lists and the whole speculation, but I like to go back and see if any of the things I was talking about actually came true. Sometimes they did. Like recently, they were talking of a certain vehicle that was on one of the leak lists that hadn't come out, and I was like, oh wow, that was like a few months ago when we were talking about that.
That's good to hear. I like to hear other people that are interested in their old stuff. I accidentally became my hugest fan, and I'm not even ashamed to say it. Like my wife is like, she's a little bit ashamed of how much I like my own stuff. Let's put it that way. So I think that's healthy. That you for your own reasons. So you're a news source, so you go back to check what you were saying in the past and see how it turned out. And especially with leakless stuff like you mentioned, that's interesting to see what and when actually comes to the game.
What I was saying is, if you're not willing to go back and watch your old stuff, then why would some stranger watch your stuff at all? Like if your stuff isn't entertaining enough for you to like it, then it wouldn't be good stuff. But if you do find yourself watching your old things, then I'd say you got some good videos.
Well, then the both of us, I think, have a good thing going on. What are your dreams for the future?
For the future? One thing has been a dream since childhood is I want to buy a tank. Any old type of tank. It could be US, it could be Russian. It'll probably be one of the Cold War tanks. It's always been one of my life goals. And also recently I've developed a dream of wishing to move back to the country, because I'm not too much of a city person anymore.
I like your style. Keep going.
And also, you can't really drive a tank around the city, but you can in the country.
Just random M3A1 plowing down the road.
So in order to get there, I gotta do a lot of YouTube. Social Blade says I'll be at 10,000 in 6 months. 1,000 subscribers is. I don't know. I think that's like having a successful channel is really surreal. Like the way people interact with you, like you're famous or something. Like I'm not used to that, so it's odd. I'm not entirely like I'm getting more used to it. I don't want my ego to grow too much. That's something I'm making sure to keep in check. I don't want to become like some Jake Paul or whatever. And although I will also say not to entirely ignore those types of like the characters, because if they're successful, they're obviously doing something right. So that it's good to keep an eye on exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, maybe why it works and not necessarily following the moral example. You want to be good and successful. I think that's actually a good thing to point out, is that you don't have to make questionable or improper moral decisions to get ahead. You can be successful and be good at the same time. And you know what? I think you're a good guy, Bart. So, with that, on a completely unrelated note, girlfriend. Have you had one? Tell me about it.
Last time I had a girlfriend was in high school. And that was more of like, oh yeah, girls are a thing. I should go date one.
All right, tell me more.
Well, it was like the fakest relationship possible. I personally I hadn't dated a girl prior to that, or really legitimately did. So I need to learn how to date women. So I'm gonna go do that.
You dated the tutorial then, huh?
Well, unfortunately, she was a little weird. I think on our second date, she threw up. And she had some weird god complex. And I'm like, well, she's kind of cute. And then we never really talked at all, and I wasn't very good at the whole dating thing. And she wasn't. We just weren't connecting, I guess, on that level.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, so if nothing really happens, I'm gonna break up with her in a week. And on that day, she broke up with me. I was like, well, I guess.
Well, that made things easier. Well,
but
what were you saying?
Okay, so, but after that, there was this one girl that I had met that I was really into. I really liked her. I didn't. That's why I kind of dated the tutorial woman, because I didn't want to go and ask her out and then be a complete goof. And I don't know. I guess that's not most respectful way to treat women, I guess, as tutorials. And I wasn't entirely. I don't know. I was in high school.
Well,
pardon me if I'm offending anyone.
I know exactly what you were thinking. It's not wrong for you to go, spend some pleasant time with someone you're not necessarily the most interested in, because who knows? That could be how you meet your wife, as long as you're good to her. So, You weren't doing anything wrong. You were just preparing yourself for a more meaningful encounter down the line. So tell me about this other girl. Okay,
so this other girl, I was like, I don't know, it was really weird situation, because I don't know, from the moment I met her, I was like, oh wow, she's like cute and funny, and we have a lot of the same interests, and then I just never really went after her at all, up until I was in college, and then I was like, man, because I had a dream involving her, and I was like, oh, I just remembered how much I cared about her in high school, and I was like, okay, I'll go try to see where she's at in life, because I was doing all right, kind of. I had some money and was going to college, and then I figured out though that she had moved out of town, unfortunately, and I was like, well, whatever. Long distance relationships, they don't really ever work, but sometimes maybe I could try to get to work. And then she started dating someone else, and then she changed completely, and I don't know, it was a disaster, and I never got the note that I should let go of this situation. Unfortunately, I kind of got depressed for a good while because of it. But right now, I've decided I need to really get my YouTube channel together, and then I'll go worry about the women.
Mm-hmm. It's incredible how much you can care about somebody that there's no guarantee that they care that much about you. But I'm convinced that one day you'll find someone that will love you more than you deserve to be loved, and then you'll be able to share your affection with her. That's I've been through similar things to what you're talking about, and I actually ended up dreaming about my wife. I've got a video somewhere on the channel, Valentine's Day special, where I talk about how my wife is literally my dream girl because I dreamed about her before I met her, and that one, as you can probably tell from the toddler and baby sounds in the background, that one worked out. So thanks for sharing that with us. You've been very you've been very brave in sharing things that have been embarrassing for you in the past, or painful for you in the past. And I think it's even more important that you share those things because that really encourages people that are going through the same stuff. So, was there something that, while we were talking, you thought to bring something up, but you didn't get a chance to bring it up yet?
Well, I could talk a bit more about the festivals that I would be going to when I was a kid.
Yeah, tell me more about those.
Well, you know the Oregon Country Fair? You should.
Oh, yeah. The Oregon... Is that the one with all the painted up naked people?
Yeah.
Okay,
went
yeah,
there a lot.
I know about that.
There were a good chunk of the festivals were a lot like that. Well, the type of art that my mom sells, people there love it. But I don't have much good things to say about the Oregon Country Fair.
Hippies everywhere.
Yeah. But there's two types of festivals. There's ones like that where you would camp in the woods and there'd be a bunch of drunk people, and then there was the more the festivals in cities that were. I like them a bit more because you got to stay in a hotel and you were in a like tent in the middle of the woods. But like I don't know. It's just that they were really fun and like interesting. I have like a lot of scattered memories of random places that I don't recognize. I kind of lost my train of thought now, but yeah, I don't know. I've seen a lot of the bizarre part of the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been to LA, but my mom has. But I've been up to Seattle multiple times. I don't remember where I was going with this.
Well, for people that aren't familiar with Oregon hippies, we have the weirdest hippies in the world. And the hippie movement sort of started and then died out in the 60s and maybe the early 70s, but it's still very much alive here in Oregon. So for people that aren't familiar with that, there's really no way to describe it, but just look up the Oregon Country Fair, and depending upon your age and maturity level, there will be a significant amount of content that's not appropriate for you to watch. But basically, if you want to see people acting really, really weird, Oregon Country Fair.
Yeah, that was a good chunk of my childhood. I went to the fair a lot. I don't remember how many times I've gone there. But I got to tell you, while everyone there is happy and fun and like drunk, the people that are behind the scenes are a bunch of a-holes.
Yeah, that's
like they're trying to make money. Actually, no, they're not trying to make money.
Mm-hmm.
They're stuck into some sort of weird psyche of, oh, I've been at this booth spot for 70 years or whatever long it's been going, so I'm better than any other one else. It's like it's a jarring perspective of it all.
It's interesting that you would mention that, because that brings right around to the teachers who didn't treat you well when you weren't at the same education level as other kids is that weird sense of pride that people have. Not that they're better as a person, but that they're better than someone else, and that is toxic, and it's harmful to everybody, especially the person that really believes that. And of course, we could talk about things like War Thunder elitism or things like that, where you can see it in the game, but that's part of human nature. Where especially if you feel like you're not successful within your heart, one of the ways you trick yourself is by making other people look like they're not as good as you. It's deception. It's self-deception, and it's really destructive. So you noticed that right away as a kid. And one of the things that I've noticed just by listening to you is that you haven't talked down about anybody. Even with when you were talking about teachers that didn't treat you well, you also you made some excuses for them. You aren't into that elitism or trying to make yourself seem like you're better than somebody else. Am I right to say that?
Yeah, I would agree. I think a lot of that nature comes from being the youngest of three boys, basically being on the bottom of stuff. I was, I guess, I wouldn't say disrespectful for my brothers, but they also looked down at me because I was like much younger.
Mm-hmm.
Not much younger, but I was younger than them. And it was a very aggressive livelihood because we're three boys, get into fights all the time, break stuff.
Yeah, you got to prove who's the best, right?
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of I got a big live and let live, try to help other people attitude because my two older brothers were like basically I wanted to make them like me and all that kind of stuff. So I just want to be like nice to people.
Well, that's the secret to happiness, man. You know who the happiest people in the world are? It's not the people that have all the good stuff. It's the people that treat other people well. It makes you so happy when you are kind to other people. And I might sound like Mr. Rogers when I say that, but I think Mr. Rogers was a pretty cool guy, so maybe I don't mind that. So we have talked about your childhood as the one of the sons of a mom who sold her art to hippies and other people. You saw some crazy things at the Oregon Fair. You didn't get a handle on early education, and so you were behind, and people would treat you like a mentally deficient person, even though you're not. And you ended up having some adventures through school that I loved hearing about those. Or what else? You tried college because everybody was pushing you to go there, and you found out it wasn't the place for you. You're definitely not alone with that. Like I said, that's been my experience too. And that doesn't mean it's not the place for other people, just not for us. You've started your channel. It's been wildly successful. You're covering things that are coming to the game or may be coming. You love the theories and to speculate about what could be coming, and that's something that you and Bacon have in common. And poor Bacon, people, one of the things that I haven't really mentioned that I'm sure you're familiar with is that people can be downright mean when it comes to the things that are coming to the game, like their favorite vehicle they want in, and everything that could compete with it. They get really upset when hearing it might come. So what has been your experience with the War Thunder community? Have you found some good friends in the community?
Well, I'm starting to get along with my Discord mods. For most of War Thunder, I didn't talk to anyone at all. I just kind of played it because I was bored. I read a lot of things on the forums. But what I've observed from the community is that there seems to be two factions in it. There is the I don't want to say little kids, but I assume they're mostly young, young teenagers who love memes, love OP tanks. They speculate on everything. They fill the Reddit with bad memes that they developed every weekend when the memes are allowed. And then there's the
those sound like the kids that I like on my server. You keep going.
And then there's the more hardened like history nuts that they're older, like in their later 20s or something, and they want everything to be historically accurate. They hate memes. They hate anime. I don't want to be too mean to down talking to them because they're much smarter than like a lot of people out there, and they know like random history things. And those are the people that actually run the Discord, and that's why memes are only not the Discord, from the Reddit, and that's why memes are only allowed on weekends.
I was gonna ask about that. It's just like the Reddit does a similar thing. I thought, yeah, the grumpy older guys got to it. Keep going.
But it's kind of interesting to see how these two like faces of the community interact. I don't know if they necessarily hate each other, but I like you see on Reddit, especially on Meme Day, they're two bumping heads all the time. I've tried to make sure to mitigate any of the conflict that they have between them on my Discord.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of hard. But honestly, like both sides of it, I very much enjoy it because I like talking about history, and I also love really stupid memes. So, oh yeah, and then there's the forums, which is like a jungle of crazy, toxic people who just, it seems most people there just hate each other. And then there's like a small community of people who don't hate each other and don't hate the game, but you gotta dig for those people.
God bless the positive people on the forums. And on Reddit, too. I just met somebody today in a game who actually recognized me, which is just like, does that blow your mind when people recognize you?
Oh, it blows my
mind
every time it happens. Well, it's just so strange that, like, I don't expect people to recognize me at all. I said earlier, it's surreal. Like, when I joined your Discord to notify you for this, or there's a dude's like, hey man, I love your stuff. It's like, it's cool. I don't even know who you are, but you know me.
And you know what's crazy is people, before you showed up on the Discord, they were already talking about you. You know, like you are someone that people talk about. Isn't it wild when someone recognizes you, they have enjoyed your work, and you're like, don't you know that I'm nobody? But you're not nobody. And you know, honestly, I think now's a good time to bring it up. I've been sort of throwing in my youth pastorisms as we've been talking today, because I just feel like maybe somebody needs to hear this, but I think it also helps with the perspective on what you're feeling, is that everybody is really important. You know, everybody is somebody incredible, and it sounds stupid. It sounds like something you hear in elementary school, but it's just absolutely true. Everybody's important. Everybody's special, and the fact that people that have never met you know you, you're a minor celebrity now, and maybe one day a major celebrity, and yet you're just a regular person. And I don't know, maybe nobody needs to hear that, but the real celebrities are babies. Everybody, I mean, not necessarily everybody, but like all the moms are like, oh, look at the baby. And any baby comes into a room, there's this cluster of people around them. They don't know anything about this baby, but they're suddenly the most important thing to notice and to talk about. And everybody's touching them and smiling at them and talking to them. And you know what? I think after that, each one of us kind of misses that attention a little bit. I think that's why people want to be celebrities again. But it's really just going back to being a baby. So where do we go from here? Maybe one or two more questions. You've talked a little bit about travel. You talked about wanting to go to museums. Presumably to see the vehicles. Where, if you could go anywhere, for a 1-month vacation, where would you go and what would you do?
Well, this is going to might come a bit out of left field, but I'd go to Japan. That's also been one of my life goals or whatever, because I'm a filthy weeb, as you like to call them.
Honto desu ka?
I don't know any Japanese.
Is that true?
No, I know a little bit. I can say a sandoichi, which is sandwich, and I used to know how to say my name or hello. My name is this. Kind of forgot it all. I do want to start learning again sometime in the future, but I don't know. I really have always liked Japan. Actually,
Ohayo gozaimasu. Namae wa Bartholomew desu.
Yeah. How much Japanese do you know?
Just as much as I could pull from anime and about a year of study. On my own. Because I'm a weeb.
So actually what kind of got me into history a lot is when we were going to on these trips to random festivals. Like sometimes I would be running around the fairgrounds, like hiding in people's booths and getting people mad at me. Or
little goblin child. Love it.
Or I would be in the hotel room watching cable, because at home we didn't have cable. So, and the only channels I would know were Sci-Fi, History Channel, and Discovery Channel. And Discovery Channel always had boring documentaries, and Sci-Fi always had really bad movies. But the History Channel, there's always documentaries about World War II, and I loved watching those. Mm-hmm. Getting a little older, I'm pretty sure most of them were lies, but I just loved hearing about mostly the battles in the Pacific, the air battles. Mm-hmm. I don't know, they enthralled me in many ways. It sounds so cool. That really they were just repeating the same line 4 times for half an hour, and then that was the documentary. This History Channel documentaries are really bad.
Well, what I tell people is they're a good starting place. If you're a kid, it's a great way to get interested in history, and then it seems like kid stuff when you get older.
Yeah. Well, as I was saying, is that kind of first got me into history, but also kind of I really like Japanese aircraft. I thought they were really cool with the Zero. I didn't know what it was actually called, but I just remember it was extremely awesome and cool and impossible to destroy or whatever.
Sure, impossible to destroy. It's hard to hit, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. And then I was in middle school or sometime. I don't remember. My brother just said, "Hey, you should watch this. It's cool," or whatever. And it was Naruto, the anime. So that's my second interaction with Japan. And unfortunately, from watching Naruto too much, I became a weeb, as I said.
You got it. You sound like you got a disease. You're like, yeah, now I can't go faster than a jog without putting my wrists behind my back.
Well, you joke, but I was really into it in middle school, to the point where me and my group of friends had decided that we're going to be ninjas ourselves. And what that really meant is we're going to beat the crap out of each other in the backyard.
Oh, man, I wish I knew you guys. Keep going.
So, yeah, martial arts became a big part of my life for a small little bit. It kind of fell out when I started getting to high school. But for the few years in middle school, we were wearing headbands and such, and just being the dumbest kids in the school. But it was extremely fun. And then we got real hard into fighting, but we weren't exactly good at it, and nor did we follow any rules. Our only rules is no crotch shots, no headshots.
So
besides that, you just punch each other till someone says stop.
This doesn't really have anything to do with the interview, but I am a fairly well-trained martial artist, and I'm certified to teach. I actually am teaching one person right now, and yes, his name is Daniel. So I have my own little Daniel-san. But I've posted 2 martial arts videos just showing some things on the channel, and I think I think I'm going to start posting more, so I will be sure to remember your earlier interest in martial arts once I start posting those things. I think it's just one of the most fascinating and fun things to study. But I need more people like my own size that I can practice with. But anyway,
that was one of the major problems with martial arts when I was in high school. Is I'm a bit of a larger person, so my friend who was supposed to be teaching us martial arts, really just he would watch YouTube videos and interact with them.
I love it. It's like Junior Fight Club.
So in high school, I was bigger. Actually, I was in middle school. I was also bigger than most of the kids that'd be fighting, and like they were really no challenge to me because I could. At one point, I could actually pick the kid up and throw him.
So suddenly you're the bad guy.
Yeah, I guess. But because of that, like not actually having anyone to fight, I couldn't really properly practice martial arts with anyone, and I kind of unfortunately fell out of it. But my interest in martial arts and more of where they came from, the Far East, I believe you call it, Asia. I really started to like that stuff. And so I kind of got enthralled with Japan as I was going through that. And I just want to go to Japan and check things out. Probably go to some of their World War II museums. Because of the two things in my life, history and martial arts.
Yeah, I think that really would be interesting. I've done a decent amount of looking into Japanese culture, and I was certainly very interested in it. Now I think they're not all that different from us. They just had some different circumstances than, of course, the United States with their history, which shouldn't surprise anyone. But once you get down to it, it's really interesting how similar people are and yet how different the cultures can be. So it's just fascinating to go see other people. And having said that, it's getting just about time to wrap up our convo. I really had a lot of fun talking with you today. Did I miss anything while we were talking today?
Well, I could probably go on for hours talking about my life, but I think this is good enough for now.
Well, I definitely had a good time talking with you. Thanks for spending the time to connect with me today, Bart.
Yeah, you kind of cut at the end there.
Oh, okay. I was just telling you thanks for showing up. Anyway, I will... Well, let me say goodbye to these good people first. So this has been Bartholomew, or Bart, the proprietor of the 2and900 YouTube channel. And definitely check out his channel if you haven't already. You really don't have a reason to be here if you haven't. I guess, well, did you come here for me? Anyway, catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.